Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm Raffi, as always, joined by Theodore and Davian. Boys, the World Cup is underway. I don't know if you guys have been waking up at 4 in the morning. I have done it once so far. Was not a good experience for me. I think for you guys it's 5 a.m., but regardless, waking up early for the
Yeah.
World Cup games. How are we doing, guys? We'll talk about the U.S. We'll talk about some of the other games, but first, I just want to know how you guys are doing on this fine day before Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is coming up, and I'm thankful for a lot of things. One of the things is this podcast, of course, especially Theodore's poor takes, which give us like a
Poor
great
takes?
thing to laugh about.
I'm sorry.
Let's
Before-
talk about the
you talk about
climate,
poor
Theodore.
takes.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about this climate of yours, Theodore. Oh, Qatar's gonna go so far. They're the home team, man. It's the home
That was
team.
one take, and was I wrong?
It was
I
a
don't think-
terrible take, Theodore.
See, but the thing
the
is, you
Qatar
can.
team is terrible.
I mean, I feel like you can still
What?
apply this climate take to the country bordering Qatar that had a very good game, which was Saudi Arabia. So I think Theodore's climate argument is
Yes.
not
Thank you,
completely
Raffi.
out the window. Just wanted to mention that as well.
I'm thankful
Yeah,
for
we'll
you,
see.
Raffi.
Saturday was not a break, though.
But you know what?
Because, look, climate clearly is a factor here.
No, it's not.
It is. It
not.
absolutely is.
It is
You can't
not.
try to
It
deny.
is affected no team. It's legit cold in those stadiums. People are getting blankets because it's cold.
Climate
It's
is more
not
than just
hot.
weather. Climate is also the atmosphere in which you're living. And look, these are humans playing the games. There is going to be a toll on these players. And that's part of the reason why we saw a team like Saudi Arabia pull off a miraculous upset.
Yes, but let's just get right into it. We'll start with the
Sorry,
opening game, Qatar versus Ecuador. We'll go through all the games as of Wednesday. We are recording this right after Canada Belgium, so we'll be talking about all those games. Give a little bit of insight going forward. But first off, Qatar versus Ecuador. I don't know if there's too much to say. Ecuador beat Qatar. Qatar is the first nation to lose their opening match. South Africa drew. I know a bunch of our countries drew when they were hosting, and I think England back in like the 60s drew as well. So Qatar, first team to lose their hosting opener game, was a bit disappointing because obviously you wanted to see all the Qatari fans going crazy after their team scored. Obviously, South Africa, once again, I just bring that up because, one, the horns still haunt me, and also just because that was an amazing electric replay and just a clip to watch over and over again. So, boys, any quick thoughts on Qatar versus Ecuador? I think Ecuador, we expected them to be a young, hungry team, and they certainly looked like that in the opening match.
No thoughts except that Qatar sucks and there's no climate
Yeah.
that's benefiting.
They didn't
In
bribe the
hindsight-
officials though. They didn't bribe Ecuador, or maybe they should have
True.
bribed a bit more
That's-
money.
That was the biggest surprise to me. In hindsight, yes, they do kind of suck. But is the climate still a factor? Yes, it is. Argue with the wall, Davian.
They
It's not
should have.
true.
I-
Well, show us next week when Saudi Arabia doesn't break into the group stage.
They really should have given Ener Valencia a bit more money because he scored both the goals for Ecuador, and
Facts.
I think if they were able to give him a couple more $1 million, maybe he would have shanked that penalty shot that he had early on.
Valencia for the Ballon d'Or. I'm telling you guys, this guy's the future. He's really good. I like him.
Unfortunately, many bettors also lost good money after hearing the potential rig of 1-0 Qatar. So also just want to send out my thoughts to those people who are affected by that bet, because that if you bet anything else, I'm sure you won some money out of it. Moving on to the Group B games, and along with Senegal and Netherlands as well on Monday, England just absolutely stomped Iran. It was very interesting. Obviously, sports not really political, but obviously Iran choosing not to sing the national anthem. A lot of people also in the stadium didn't like it. Some did, some didn't. So there's obviously a situation there. We're only going to be covering the sports side of it, but obviously there's plenty of sources out there that can give a good breakdown of what's going on in Iran. Anyways, England, they looked pretty good. They scored a touchdown, as we would say back home in the United States of America. And yeah, it looks like England's definitely going to probably win the group, and it also looks like Iran is probably bound to be at the bottom of the group.
Yeah, and that's really surprising to me.
Because the
Wales
climate
looked
wasn't
good.
helping them.
Shut up, Davian. You're so funny. Like you think you're so
I know. I
cool.
try to be. I know.
Look, Wales looked good. I know we're going to break down that game in a minute. Wales looked really good to the point where I'm really doubting Iran's chances of really making any noise in this group. But I think it'll be a dogfight for second for sure, and I'm sure that's what we're about to get into, Raffi.
Yeah, I just think Iran, with everything that's going on with the climate that's going on in Iran, to just use the word climate once again, I just think that definitely played a role in how Iran showed up to the match, and I just think it really affected them. And again, Iran was a team that I spoke very highly of entering the World Cup group stages, but right now it just seems like there's more important things going on. So you understand it, but I just don't think Iran is going to really do
Mm,
much in this group.
I don't. I kind of disagree. I don't think that political climate really affects the team. I think it to a certain degree it might when it comes to like the fans and how many people really came out to really go see Iran. But other than that, I really don't think it affects the team that much. We've seen other teams who've had political turmoil in their countries still do well in the World Cup. Whether that be Italy in the past few World Cups or any. Well, I know Italy hasn't been really getting into the World Cup,
Well, they
but
won the Euro Cup.
there have been countries which have
Yes,
been
they did
really
win the Euro. Yes. So yeah, obviously once
good.
again, we'll look out for it. Obviously, we'll take a look at Iran's next match, which will be versus Wales. I believe that will be also on Friday. I think that's at 4 in the morning, here located where I am currently at, which is not to be said on live broadcasting on live YouTube, but regardless, moving on, let's go real quick over to Group A. Netherlands, obviously, Theodore's boy Mane was out for Senegal. Senegal looked good for the most part. I don't think they were anything fabulous, but they at least hung tight, and I think that it's very clear from the beginning that it was gonna be Ecuador versus Senegal for the 2 spot in Group A, but I just think that Senegal still looks pretty solid. Yes, you lose to the Netherlands, but then again, you're down your best man, and they still came to play and looked pretty well overall.
Yeah,
Yeah, as
I
right
kind of
now, I
agree with
think
that. I think
Senegal would have to be my
Senegal did
pick.
well.
Um, you can go ahead, David.
Oh, okay, my bad. I've been making fun of you so much. I just wanted to give you the floor just for a few minutes, but kind of to continue. I think Netherlands played really well. I think that there's some pieces. They need a shooter. They need a striker. I feel, which I'm sure they might be able to figure out over the course of the World Cup. If not, then I don't really see them going that far into if they break out of the group stage, which they most likely will. Senegal, it's just sad that they don't have Mane. You kind of realize that they have like a one missing piece on the team, but other than that, nothing much else to say.
Right. I had
Yeah,
Senegal, I believe I had them second, but Theodore, continue on because I know you wanted to talk about Mane as you spoke very highly of him before.
yes, Dream League soccer legend, as I said last show. A really good player overall. Senegal's a good team. I was impressed by the effort against, the Netherlands squad that I really think is elite and is, has the potential to make a deep run in this tournament. So they'd be my pick as of right now. Sadly, I don't think things are gonna. Not sadly, I guess, but like I don't think my Qatar pick is gonna work out. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I don't. It was a bad pick from the start. Anyways, let's get into the big match that we obviously are going to spend a good amount of time talking about. The USA taking on Wales. Timothy Weah scored the opening goal for the United States. It was electric. 36th minute he scored. Later on, Gareth Bale scores on a penalty shot. We can get all into Zimmerman and his. You didn't need to take that foul at all inside the box like that, but regardless, Gareth Bale, of course, because it's Gareth Bale, scoring the equalizer in the 82nd minute once again on a penalty shot. Boys, I want to hear your thoughts, but first, I just want to say that I was very happy with how the United States played the first half. I thought they played a really good first half. They kept rolling and rolling in waves. They did a really good job. I have no complaints about the first half. My only complaint, though, going back on what I just said, was I wanted to see them get in one more goal. Just get that cushion versus Wales, because I think going into it, obviously I'd been saying the USA was going to beat Wales, win the group, yada, yada, yada. Realistically, I had this down as a draw. I am not upset with this result. I thought the U.S. drawing Wales was definitely in the picture. I'm not shocked by it, but I'm more disappointed that they weren't able to get that second goal, and they really just let Wales dictate the play for the whole second half and let Wales back into the game.
Yeah, I think that America played well in the first half. I didn't really get to see much of the first half. I was just kind of relying based off like people who I know who watched, and they said that America played really well. I think the second half we had a lot of chances, but on defense we just kind of slacked, which is kind of I feel like also what happened with Germany really. which we'll kind of discuss later as well. But I think it was a good match. I wish America won because it would provide them a cushion.
Right.
Really kind of like they would be able to control their own fate. Now they need to face off against England and keep the game close at least, or at least score a few goals, because in the end of the day, it's going to come down to goal differential. And let's say America, Wales is probably going to beat Iran. Let's say America beats Iran, right? And then Wales and England loses. Wales loses to England, right? It goes down to goal differential, who scored more goals. So we really need to rack up the goals against. I keep it close against England, rack them up against Iran, and then just hope that Wales kind of flounders, really.
Peter, before you speak, I just want to mention that call me crazy, but I really do believe that if the U.S. plays like how they did in the first half and plays a full 90 minutes versus England on Friday, I think that there can be a good chance. Obviously, England's such a good deep team. They have talent everywhere in their lineup. Obviously, once again, England probably going to win the group. But I just think that if the U.S. shows and plays a complete game, that they have a very good chance of at least drawing the game. And that's likely going to be enough if they beat Iran to move on to the knockout stage. Theodore?
Yeah, it's tough for me because, first of all, going in, I said Iran was a very good team. I still stand by the fact that, they're a decent squad. It's just that England overpowered them. So the fact that England was able to completely outclass Iran the way they did, played a better game in every way, shape, or form, I don't think bodes well for our squad. I don't want to come out and be negative, but I just really don't see any shot we outright win the game. I think you're basically playing for a draw. I could absolutely see another, 1-1 tie here, which would be enough, as you said. It's just hard to see us taking down England with the way they're playing, as fun as that would be.
Right. Again, I think if they play a full 90 minutes, that they can at least pick up, just draw and split the points, but we'll obviously see what happens. Again, Wales versus Iran will also be at 4 in the morning at my location time. So that's going to be a big game to see just how Wales is in comparison to Iran, and especially, as Theodore mentioned, Iran had a terrible showing versus England. So then we will get a chance before they play the U.S. and see how Iran is actually and what level they can play up to, because I think they're not as bad as they looked in that first game, but I don't know if they're good enough to make too much trouble just coming. Because again, a -4 goal differential is very hard to overcome unless you win
Right.
both your games. So if Iran draws at any point, they can cause chaos, but they can't afford a draw. They can't afford to lose any
Right.
point.
It's about making noise, and that's kind of like also how I feel like we're gonna talk about this, I guess, but like Morocco in a way is gonna like create a lot of noise in that group as well.
Right, right.
With Croatia.
Right. And before we get on to Group F, we have some of the games from yesterday. So we'll start off with the climate. Theodore, I just want some quick thoughts on Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. We can get into some teams that disappointed and some teams that we didn't expect that might be underrated, but I just want your quick thoughts on Argentina, Saudi Arabia, so you can talk about the climate.
Yeah. Unlike Raffi here, for our viewers, I did not wake up at 5 a.m. Eastern time to watch this game. I
didn't either. I didn't.
Oh, so
I woke up.
yeah,
I woke up an hour. I woke up after an hour, checked the score. It was 1-0 Argentina at half, and I was like, okay, Argentina is just gonna walk away with this. And I went to bed and woke up very nicely at 6:30 to watch the next game, and was thoroughly disappointed to see what I had missed out on. But Theodore, continue.
So yeah, with none of us having seen it, the highlight reel I watched, the official One Fox Sports posted, absolutely insane. Like, this would have been probably one of the most incredible games I've ever seen. First of all, the offsides calls. Wow, like that was like, what was going on there? That was.
See, my problem with those is by the rule and by VAR, those are the right calls. So I don't understand why people are complaining about it. Obviously, I understand the frustration because it's like Messi's like part of his shoulder was offside, and it's like, okay, like that's kind of dumb, but by the VAR, by the rules, that is technically offside. So I don't really like. I guess it was being too nitpicky, but then again, it was offside. That's the point of VAR.
Yeah, like you got to make the call.
Yeah,
like because every goal matters. Second of all, Saudi Arabia goalkeeper, incredible to save. Excuse me.
All right,
like absolute masterpiece on that one early goal, and they just played really well as a squad. You know what? They did what I said Iran would do. Because they're in a similar position to Iran, as where like a bunch of players who have really racked up a ton of time playing together, in their local leagues, because these aren't, guys out playing in the Premier League or any of the major world leagues. So I just they were never on my radar, because I was like, okay, these guys just clearly aren't good enough. But are they? I don't know, but I'm very excited to see where this team goes next.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
like by them wrapping up their league in October, giving the players a month to kind of train with each other. I think that was a very smart idea.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think they're just an impressive team, and we'll see if they make some more noise or if this was just a fluke by Argentina.
Right. I think Argentina will recover. Obviously, as we all know, I have Argentina winning. My runner up to Argentina looked really good today, but we'll get to them in a second. I don't know if you guys tuned into Denmark, Tunisia, but I can just sum it up very quickly. Tunisia played a solid game. They just didn't really break at any point. Denmark had some chances, but it was pretty back and forth, but honestly, not too much really happened. If we want to really talk about absolutely nothing happening, Mexico, Poland, aside from Lewandowski missing a penalty shot that was saved by the man who shows up every 4 years for Mexico and apparently disappears off the map
Man,
in between those 4 years,
you guys nuts.
there wasn't really anything else that happened in that Poland Mexico game. I was a bit with the Saudi Arabia win versus Argentina. I think the one thing neither of the teams wanted was a draw, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if you're Saudi Arabia, you know what? I can't really agree with what you said there, Raffi. Because the fact of the matter is, it's very easy to imagine a situation where either Mexico or Poland can beat Saudi Arabia, and then
Right, but there's a route that they'd have to use though, because if Saudi Arabia is able to draw either of those matches, or if their goaltender
they'd
can steal in
have
our
to,
game, then
right?
there's
Yeah.
absolutely there's Saudi Arabia has a much easier time now getting that second spot in comparison to Poland and Mexico because they each have 1 point rather than one of them having 3 points.
Yeah, I get I get the general idea of what you're saying. I wouldn't be too worried though. I personally am intrigued by Saudi Arabia going forward,
I am
but
as well.
I think a better team, and they can both outright beat Saudi Arabia. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes, but it's very easy to see either of them getting through with 4 points.
Right, and then the final game, France. At first, I thought we were getting chaos. I thought that the World Cup curse was going to be alive and well, but France really took care of business after allowing the opening goal to Australia. It was a pretty early goal in the 9th minute of the game. Craig Goodwin scoring for Argentina for the Aussies. And after that, it was all France the rest of the way. So once again, France, with their title defense, looks like it's going well. And I'd imagine that they are able to move on. Again, I don't think many people had them missing the knockout stage, but I think that they're going to lose still in the first match. But we'll see what happens, obviously. I don't know if you guys have any quick thoughts on that before we move on to today's slate of games.
I will say, France is they weren't. Now this is the one game of this day that I really didn't watch much of. Even the highlights, I barely checked them out. I'm just purely going off name value, because what I said last show, in terms of pure names, and this was before the Benzema injury, France might be the most recognizable team in the world.
Right. Obviously,
Yeah.
Oliver Giroud was amazing in that game as well. Ageless wonder.
Yes. It's incredible that he's still playing it. Like, we talk about it with Messi and Ronaldo. Throw his name in there as well.
Right. So France, yes.
Yeah. Back to the point though. Denmark, I'm not really high on. I think I think all of us kind of threw them out there as a team that could even win the group. I think you might have actually picked that, right, Raffi?
I did pick Denmark winning the group, yes, and that is a take that likely is not going to happen now. But I still like to remain optimistic that, again, Theodore, as you mentioned, what really helped the Saudis was the fact that they had a month off to really gel with the team. A lot of these teams, a lot of these countries haven't really had too many team practices together, so I think we'll see teams as we go on get past those growing pains and show up and play some more complete games. I obviously don't think this is the Denmark we'll see the rest of the way, but yeah, obviously Denmark drawing versus Tunisia is not a great way to potentially win the group.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
kind of
was
mentioned
very
it.
impressed by Tunisia, though, and I really think
Right.
that if they can beat Australia, which, let's be real, I just don't see anything special about this Australia team. I think we can
Nope.
all agree the Oceania group is probably the worst in the world, right? Is there any debate there?
I mean, the Antarctic group is probably right up there, but yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so like they're barely World Cup caliber team. Tunisia should be able to beat them easily, as should Denmark. So it's really just about, I think, who plays that better game against France. And Tunisia just like reaches out to me as a team that could potentially hold them to like that 1 goal loss that differential wise could be the difference.
Yeah, once again, though, I just want to mention Denmark did beat France twice in the past 5, 6 months. So there's definitely that. Maybe the French come out and are a little annoyed by that and decide to just put up four. But I really can't imagine Denmark, France being any more than a 1 or 2 goal win for France. If 2 goals being like France scores a really late goal while Denmark's being very aggressive. So we'll see what happens. But once again, not the group best start for Denmark, but for the French, things are going well so far.
Yeah.
Today, let's move on
Tunisia
to today's
continues.
group stage games where I watched all of them. I woke up at 4 in the morning to watch Morocco versus Croatia, and it was not a great game for Croatia. I was a bit disappointed. Modric had his chances, which he always will. Croatia didn't have a bad game, but you just can't draw versus Morocco. That was just something that we all kind of pinned Morocco as a wild card. We didn't really know what they would be, and they look like they can cause chaos. Once again, I think Croatia, I'd more or less mark as they're just gelling as a group still, so I won't ring the alarms on them. But I was just a bit disappointed to have woken up at 4 in the morning and wasted 2 hours of sleep to watch that atrocity of the game.
I actually watched this whole second half of this one. Again, Morocco is a country that just, or a team that just looked very, very solid to me. And would I be absolutely shocked if they were able to move on? No, I wouldn't. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not, but definitely keep an eye out for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
My only comments for today's games were that I don't really know. Honestly, I think you guys really covered it. If I'm being honest, right?
Of
Yeah,
course.
this next game though.
Yes.
I'm sure
Let's get on to the next game because
This
I in fact did fall asleep after the Morocco Croatia game. Luckily, woke up in time for the second half of the Germany Japan game. From what I've heard, and Theodore, I think you may have watched the whole game, so hopefully you can back me up on what I've heard. Germany was really, really good in the first half, played really, really strong as a whole, and really battered in plenty of chances to Japan. But Japan in the second half, they just kept rolling with chances. You take a few minutes, and then Japan would get a couple more chances. Japan would relentlessly go and go and go. They saw their match with Belgium in the group of 8 knockout in the knockout rounds back in 2018. They saw how they blew that 2-0 lead late, and they decided, let's save some energy in this game. And they sure saved the right amount, and they played an amazing second half. Came back for Germany, roofed both of their shots, which is just if it doesn't go Bardowski, it's not a goal. Obviously, I hope someone understands that hockey reference, but I was very impressed with how Japan played in the second half.
Yeah, this was. All right. Yeah, David.
Yeah, I just gotta quickly say, Theodore, before you start, I wasn't really impressed by Japan. I think they do have speed. They do look young. It's kind of what I saw when they played America in the friendly, where Japan ended up winning. It's just I'm not impressed by this Japan team. I really don't see them making much noise after this. Look, if we talk about the stats, I mean, Germany had 74% possession, right? It's just that Japan was able to convert 12 of their shots that they had on goal. Only 4 that were actually on shots on goal, right? So 12 shots in total. Out of the 4 shots on goal, 2 of them ended up being converting. I think Germany slacked off on defense. I think they need to pick that up. I think it was more so Germany played poorly. Japan played not less so. Japan played well.
I think Japan though is really underlooked for the most part. I think Japan is arguably one of the better teams coming out of the Asian region, and obviously, once again, just want to mention in 2018 they just held on a little bit longer versus Belgium, who finished third in that World Cup. They definitely could have gone deeper for a run. So I just want to put that out there that Japan I don't think we gave them enough credit on the first
Yeah.
podcast that we did
Oh,
last week.
wait,
So
wait,
I
wait.
just want to
Don't
apologize.
throw me in, like, don't throw me in this group because, for let the record
That's true.
show,
That's true. Theodore did give them
I
some
had
credit.
Japan moving on. I said Germany is going to disappoint. And look, this
I forgot about that.
is a textbook disappointment. Germany had them on the ropes. Like, it was 1-0. It felt like 2-0 because it just felt like the way Japan was playing, like they weren't doing anything. That whole second half, it was just them. I mean, they tried setting stuff up, but like Damien said, only 4 shots on goal. And to get those 2, I think it was 76th and 83rd minute that they got those goals. Incredible. Absolute stunner. And that whole game was exciting. Also, side tangent, because I think we want to discuss this too. One of the things that I've loved most about this World Cup, the stoppage time.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
the amount of time that the games are paused for, like where no actual action is happening, is absurd. Like, to have that happen and then only play 2 extra minutes doesn't seem fair. I love seeing like an extra 7, 8. I think we had 14 minutes want to be added. Like,
Right.
absolutely.
Now, the one thing that I don't like about it is they're implementing this right now. This is the first time they're implementing it. So that's my only reason. That's the only reason why I don't really like it. I obviously like what they're doing. I think that's great for everyone. And obviously I think the main thing though is you needed to let the soccer players themselves kind of understand how this was going to work, get a feeling for it. Because a lot of the mind of a soccer player, I have to imagine, is when it's 90 minutes, okay, like I play for a little bit longer and the game's over. But now it's like you can have up to 8 to 10 minutes. We've been seeing in a lot of these matches where players aren't quite prepared mentally for that. That's definitely something to keep an eye out.
And I know I get what you're saying, but I really think this is going to provide for some incredible stoppage time finishes.
Oh, it will absolutely. I've just been waiting for
sure.
that and own goals. We haven't seen any own goals yet, so unfortunately that will happen.
I think there was almost one in the I forget what game. There's almost one. The guy headed it right at his goal. He might have been this Germany-Japan game.
I think it may have been potentially, but I don't recall.
Maybe.
Moving on.
Yeah, one that I saw.
Right. Moving on to the other Group E match, Spain scored a touchdown and an extra point versus Croatia. My championship pick of Argentina and Spain. Spain looked really good. Obviously, once again, Costa Rica. When you're down 2-0, it's very important that you don't let the game slip away from you, because if you go into the -3, -4, it becomes more and more difficult to come back from that, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And to be -7, that's essentially a death sentence.
Right. Because you really got to win your next 2 games now to even have a chance.
Right. So that's just a bit about Spain and Costa Rica. Once again, Spain looked really good. Spain plays Germany in their next match, so that's definitely going to be a very, very big match for both teams. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. Finally, to round out the games that have occurred so far, Belgium, Canada. Canada looked really good in the first half. I will give them their credit. They looked great. Obviously, Davies had a penalty shot that was saved. They probably should have gotten another one, but that got taken. That was not called. So there's a little cause of some refs shenanigans, but that's going to happen in every game. My main thing was Canada played a great game. They just didn't. If they put the ball in the net, that was all they needed to do to have an amazing game versus Belgium, in my personal opinion.
I mean, we could all say that. Like, all they needed to do is really score the goals.
Right.
I think you see this in all sports where it's like the team's doing like crazy well, especially in soccer. Team's doing crazy well, they just can't finish the shots. That was kind of how I felt about the Germany team when they played Japan.
Right.
And that's kind of how I felt when it came to Canada in this Belgium game as well. They had the shots, they just needed to convert them. Belgium, they looked okay. They didn't look great. But I liked the way the Canada team looked.
I was just a bit concerned with how many chances Canada got, because Canada had, obviously these weren't all on target, but I think they had upwards of 20 shots. Obviously, I think more or less like 4 or 5 of them were on net, and obviously Belgium did a great job making sure those didn't go into the net. But
yeah, so
I was just concerned about how many shots Canada was able to at least try to generate against Belgium.
Yeah, 22 shots.
20, yeah, right. You got the number. Only 3 of them on goal, though.
Right. But once again, you shouldn't be allowing any team to have 22 shots at times, because I don't think it wasn't like Canada was just getting the ball and shooting. They were drawing up some good plays, and once again, they had multiple grade A chances that did not go on net. So I just want to mention that as well, that Belgium, a bit of concern with them. But once again, the big thing about the World Cup, there's obviously going to be your initial overreactions. It's just about which teams are able to overcome it and which teams will prove to be disappointments. Real quick before we close, I just want us to all go around and talk and mention one team that we were surprised about and one team that we were a bit disappointed about so far. Theodore.
Well, surprise has to be Saudi Arabia, right? There's
Right.
No question about it. But that's a boring answer to give. So I'll give an actual surprise, and I think that would have to be Tunisia. I think I kind of said that they might be competitive, but also I said that Belgium and Croatia were probably the two most set in stone teams to move out of their group, out of the whole tournament.
Right.
And the fact that Tunisia was able to play such a good game and, shut down Croatia so effectively really stood out to me. And I'm really interested in where this team can go going forward. Disappointment's going to be Argentina, though. I know it's a boring answer, but how could it not be, right?
Right. David, any changes to that, or do you have any other teams you want to mention real quick before we go?
Nothing. I would just say that my biggest surprise is Saudi Arabia. I think they really shocked me. Here's what happened. I woke up around 7. I turned on the game. It's 2-1. I'm like, wait, hold up, what? And then I kind of the pundits, they break down the game and whatnot. But I was shocked that Saudi Arabia put up such a performance. I really wrote them off, and I was wrong for doing that.
Right. My overall disappointment, once again, I think we all can agree that Denmark and Argentina were the big disappointments so far. Obviously, you can throw in Germany as well. Just to go a little bit off the grid, was Qatar. I expected at least them to score a goal. I wanted that, at least that home opening game, you score a goal and you see everyone just go nuts. I was hoping for that, and Qatar was kind of disappointing the whole time. It just looked like Ecuador just had their way. It easily could have been more than 2-0 in that match. And a team that was pretty surprising to me, I'll give it to Morocco. I thought that they did a good job just holding off Croatia and not letting them score any goals, and just did a good job shutting them down for the most part. But that will be it. We got 2-3 minutes of stoppage time on this podcast, so we're a bit under what it's been in the World Cup, so that's all good though. Be sure to tune into some of our past episodes. You can see our original World Cup talk takes. I'm sure you guys are going to want to see all the ones that Theodore nailed, because he certainly nailed at least 3 or 4, so be sure to check that out.
Yeah.
Be sure to watch this one, subscribe to our channel, and also make sure to stay on the lookout for next week when we get into the actual bracket, because we will know that by the time we record our next show. We might have a special guest as well.
And we'll talk about the actual football during that show.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The record show that too.
100%.
Yeah, we'll see how Joe Flacco does this weekend.
But that will do it for this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We hope you all enjoyed. Remember, it is called soccer, not football. We hope you have a great Thanksgiving, a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you guys again soon.
Peace.